This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Football season right around the corner. Bears are in training camp, and expectations for the Bears are high this year. Maybe they'll even have a kicker who can split the uprights.
Heyo.
Where is Cody Parkey?
Who is our kicker?
I like that kid, and he's a nice
Cody,
wife
I
too.
know.
I hope he.
And after the season, he got in his car and drove to Florida to
Yeah.
decompress, but he's out of a job.
But he
maybe
did get,
somebody will pick him up.
he did get the $2 million buyout. They had to, pay him $2 million
Well, you know
bucks
what?
to cut
That'll
him.
cushion the blow a little bit.
That helps.
Huh?
That's
Let's
how
see.
I wanna
Who's
go.
the Bears kicker?
Thursday, August 8th at Soldier Field against the Carolina Panthers is when the Bears preseason kicks off. We have a 4-pack of tickets to give away. Yes, a 4-pack of tickets to give away to an active duty member of the military or a veteran. To enter for your chance to win, just go to 560theanswer.com/football. That's 560theanswer.com/football. And again, only active duty military or veterans are eligible to win, so have your ID or DD-214 at the ready. And we want to thank our friend Jeff Carter, a local guy, fintech guy, good guy. Pointsandfigures.com is his blog. Jeff Carter provided this 4-pack of tickets to the August 8th game. Bears and Panthers sign up for a chance to win today, and our next guest could sign up and have a chance to win because 30 years in the Army, and you get the chance to win Bears Carolina Panthers tickets, and I think that's why he joined. Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, he is the vice president of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute of International Studies at the Heritage Foundation, author of books including Wiki at War, Conflict in a Socially Networked World, and Private Sector Public Wars. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So do you want to go to the Bears game?
No. Okay. All right. Good talk.
Okay. Yeah, I'll leave now. Okay. Have a good day.
So I want to get to Venezuela, but why don't we start with the big story over the weekend that Dan Coats, the Director of National Intelligence, is reportedly going to resign his post in the coming days, and the leader in the clubhouse to replace him is Congressman and former U.S. Attorney John Ratcliffe, Republican from Texas. What's your assessment of that choice if POTUS were to make it?
Well, I think if we look at Coates' tenure, have we had one major disconnect on intelligence? And the answer is kind of no. It's actually been pretty quiet. Despite all the I think it's hilarious to read this stuff in the paper. Everybody puts a spin on this, like Coates is the only guy telling truth to Trump, or none of that appears to actually be true. Despite occasional articles where Coates said one thing and the president said something slightly different or something, there really hasn't been any major intel disconnect. So I think his tenure's been relatively benign. On the choice of a replacement, this is why we have Senate confirmation hearings. I think the challenge for Ratcliffe as a candidate is he has limited experience on HPSCI. What are his qualifications and attributes to oversee the intelligence community? And that's why we have confirmation hearings.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you if he's qualified, or is he just a Trump loyalist? That's why he got chosen for the job.
Well, Trump has a good track record of hiring all kinds of people. People that he doesn't necessarily agree with all the time, like John Bolton. People from other political parties like Wilbur Ross. So his choices are actually pretty diverse. There's not like Trump just hires yes men. I think that's arguably a bigger criticism, a more valid criticism of Obama. Where does the congressman fit in this? I think we'll have to see. I mean, I think that's why we have hearings. Looking forward to the hearings. I'm looking forward to seeing what he thinks he can bring to the job and how he will serve the president. It is an important job. The reason why we created the DNI after 9/11 is, many times we have the problem is not actually conflicting intelligence. Everybody agrees, but the question is it a consensus that's based on something that's valid, or is it just everybody kind of following the Pied Piper? So I think it's an important position, and I think these will be very important hearings.
Well, right, and you don't. It doesn't necessarily have to be military, right? I mean, obviously Dan Coats wasn't. He did have a long stint
Right.
in the Senate, in addition to being an ambassador to Germany, so significant post. But we've had military and like I don't know, Jim Clapper as DNI, and I wouldn't say that worked out terribly well.
No, look. I'm particularly in many of these senior positions where I'm not sure it's about the resume as much as about judgment and character. Yes, Radcliffe appears to be a strong supporter of the president. Apparently, some people that means he should automatically be disqualified from serving the president of the United States. If that were true, FDR would have had nobody in his
Yeah,
cabinet.
exactly. I mean, it's right.
So I think I'm in the camp that the president's made an appointment, or has an intent to make an appointment. Let the process run its course, and we'll see how he does.
I know you may miss this, may have missed this because it's a local story, but it gets to an international issue, and that's the situation in Venezuela. We in Chicago have dispatched a delegation of Maduroistas from the Chicago Teachers Union. They went to visit with elementary schools in one of Maduro's communes, and they made this statement. Chicago Teachers Union Area Vice President Sarah Chambers. This is somebody who teaches children in Chicago.
Okay.
Quote, through major economic hardships, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro never closed a single public school or single health clinic. This stands in stark contrast to our experience in Chicago, where Mayor Rahm Emanuel closed 50 schools and several
Oh
mental
my
health
gosh.
clinics in a single year. That's a pretty substantial endorsement for Maduro from Chicago public school teachers. What is the prospect for regime change and Maduro's departure at this stage? We sort of moved off of the front section of the paper, if there were such things anymore.
Well, compare it to something like Puerto Rico or some other situations where leaders left power because the people were just saying, we've had enough with this person. Or even in Virginia, where there was an effort to remove the governor of Virginia, which in the end people didn't do. But the point is, that's not an option in Venezuela. I mean, this is a country that has been sucked dry like a vampire, that is rapidly reaching the point where there will be more Venezuelans outside the country than inside the country, where the entire country, with the exception of a handful of people, lives in absolute abject poverty. One of the biggest oil producers in the world, a source of tremendous wealth. This regime has literally destroyed the economy. It murders its opponents. It throws them in jail. It's an open violation of the Constitution. So the regime change isn't happening in Venezuela because this is essentially the bloodiest of ugly dictatorships.
So
I couldn't imagine anybody who has a good word to say about it.
Well, then
They're that out of touch.
you haven't been to Chicago recently because Maduro hasn't closed a single public school, and you're not giving him any credit for that.
Well, I suppose they have no food, they have no freedom, but they can go to school and suffer quietly, I guess, and hear about wonderful things about the Maduro regime. That sounds pretty awesome. It sounds a lot like Stalin. Sounds an awful lot like Stalin's Russia, but that didn't turn out so well.
Speaking of revolt against repressive regimes, Hong Kong, more clashes between people, Hong Kong residents and police. Is there any prospect that the unrest in Hong Kong will have an impact on the communist leadership on the mainland?
I doubt it. China's, the Beijing government's playing a long game here. It's never going to let go of Hong Kong. It's never going to liberalize. This government is one step from the guys who cracked down in Tiananmen Square. They do, on the one hand, have a certain international reputation, so they want to kill this softly, but they definitely want to kill it.
I heard conflicting opinions about Boris Johnson, the new British PM, of course. And then I saw this interview he gave where he was talking about Churchill's rhetoric. And he really dissected Churchill's speechifying, including with descriptions of sending tricolons and chiasmas. And I'm like, wait a second. This guy's not a dingbat.
Wow.
It's because you've heard some of that, and maybe it's just because of the haircut and because he's seen as like the Trump of the UK and so forth. But this Boris Johnson, may be a real break from the sort of slow decline of the UK over the last several generations of leaders since Thatcher. Does he have the chance to spark something in Britain?
Well, he's certainly smart enough. He's certainly a wily enough politician, and he absolutely has the energy. So I do think that this is the best shot Britain has had in some time for a real jumpstart in revitalizing its self-confidence, its economy, and foreign policy. I wrote a piece for Fox News last week. I listed kind of 6 things where, he's probably going to deliver on foreign policy, all of which are extremely good for the United States. So I at this point have nothing but optimism about the new prime minister.
Does he have the potential to replace Merkel and Germany essentially as sort of the leading voice in Europe?
Well, that's a really interesting question. Of course, in all likelihood, Britain will be outside the European Union.
Right.
And of course, the great debate has always been does that strengthen or weaken Britain's independent voice? I actually think it strengthens it. And he has and if the British economy is doing well, if they have a strong relationship with the United States, if their foreign policy is successful, as an independent European voice, I actually think that he might pull far more weight than some of the European capitals.
He is Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, VP of the Catherine Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at Heritage, author of books including Wiki at War and Private Sector Public Wars. Jim, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Take care.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com.